All right, on this week of the AIS podcast, we have David Boring. He is the president founder of Never Boring out of Modesto, California. Everything brand we're going to talk about today. So how to create a brand, what a brand entails, everything. And this guy is the OG of brand. Been in business over 30 years in Modesto. So David, happy to have you on here.
And, happy to be on, Ryan. Thank you.
Awesome. So give us the story. How did you come to be?
Well, I'm actually going to add one more decade to what you just said.
Oh, 40.
We've hit.
That's
40.
Right. Yep.
We passed that in March, which was a lot of fun. But back to how we got started. I was a sign guy. I knew everything about how to do signs on vehicles, trucks, cars, windows, boats, anything and everything. And I always wanted to go into graphic design. My dad was a commercial artist in the newspaper business. And when the recession happened in '82, I started doing some work on my own. I didn't go after any accounts of where I had worked because I got let go. But I wanted to do more graphic design. Nobody was going to return my calls to send out resumes. I didn't have that quote unquote experience, which was funny because I was studying graphic design on my own curriculum, kind of not with a school or anything, but I was looking at the best of the best in advertising and graphic design. And I was watching who all those people were. And then in the beginning, you just get one account that says, yeah, we'll let you do this stuff. That was the Strawberry Music Festival.
Nice.
They're still an account. So that was fun because starting to get to prove, I can do graphic design. Signs, it wasn't an issue. But I really wanted to do graphic design. And part of the reason it happened, Ryan, is that someone will come to you and they'll say, well, we need to get a new sign. And you're looking at what you know is probably not a very good logo. Probably doesn't represent them well. And the first thing you think is, okay, now I have to gingerly ask, where's this logo from? How'd it come to be? How much do you love it? Does it represent where you're going? And out of that, a lot of logos started. Because when you're the sign person, you're the last person in the food chain, right? Mm-hmm. Everything else has been determined. Now, just put this on my truck, put this on my car, put this on my building. So that's kind of how it got started. 2 years later, I moved it out of my house, moved it to downtown Modesto, where we currently still are. We just started taking over more quadrants of the building. And it became a lot more fun because we had a sign division, we had graphic design, and eventually as technology kept changing, we added web, we added film, done a lot of publications in our day. So a lot of things working with different clients in brand in different settings. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how this whole thing started.
Nice. That's awesome. And the logo part you mentioned, are you in love with that logo? Are you going to be growing into this logo? Is it going to represent you 30 years down the road? How important is the logo? Because we talk to a lot of guys, like our logo, we went on 48-hour design or something like that and had a bunch of graphic designers make a logo for us, and we just picked a few. But we had no idea the importance of branding. We probably still don't, truthfully. So,
well, I never want to sound like a know-it-all, but I know some things.
40 years, you can speak on it.
40 years, I can speak on it. One of the things I've learned as we've gone further and further in the brand rabbit hole is that I really believe that there are things that you need to know about a business when you're creating the brand. You want to know where they're going. You'd love to be able to do we call it brand story, mm-hmm. But it's just to say in that brand story, who are you? What are the pillars of what you stand for? What separates you from everybody else? There's usually a nice little SWOT analysis in there that, the client helps us fill that out as much as we can because they know strengths, opportunities, weaknesses, threats. It's a process we do together now. It's something that we've just done for quite a few clients we've done it for. And what you do is you do it with their owner, their C-class, and you sit down and you basically list, here's our brand attributes. And then all those post-its go away. And here's what we do for, these are our pillars. This is what our organization stands for. Here's our strengths. Here's our weaknesses. And all of that are gone through, and there's a consensus built that everybody that's involved in the brand. And with that information and getting to know the client well in this process, we're able to give them a brand that fits them. Because we always feel, and don't take this wrong, but we always feel like when you just send it off to somebody that's some kind of somewhere out there in the ether, they're going to do your logo, but they haven't met you. They don't know what you stand for. They don't know the unique traits that make you better than all your competitors. And tomorrow they may be doing another logo for somebody else who does what you do.
Yep.
In our business, it's like, no, when we come in, we are your brand. We're going to be the brand expert for you. And then if we end up doing marketing with you, we won't even do marketing for your competitor because we're with you.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's all in kind of thing, kind of when you get an attorney and any of that stuff, like they're with me, they're on team, XYZ, whatever the brand is. And so for us, then we start coming up with the logo ideas and presenting them to them. And they're usually really happily surprised how we got there, but it's all based on stuff they've said and things we've learned from them. So it becomes very cool at that point, because the brand feels like it's what they spoke it into existence.
Yeah, so you're making a visual representation of their core values, what they do, what they stand for, how they want to be portrayed in the market, all of those things.
Internally and externally.
Yeah.
If you do your brand story right, because you're the hero in the journey.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you've heard of that.
I've read Story
So
Brand.
if you're hero on the journey, this goes back to Joseph Campbell, all sorts of writers, but hero on the journey is the client is looking for a solve. Your client's looking for a solve. Anybody that's got a business, their client's looking for a solve.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the solve? Okay, we are. And that's what that's what anybody that's good at what they do, you have the same thing. We got a problem. We don't know what we're going to do with this kitchen. We have no idea what.
Mm-hmm.
Well, wait, we can be the solve, right?
KHB, Kitchen Home.
And that's why. And then when you literally become the hero on their journey, you manage them, you do the work to their vision, you learn and understand who they are, you get a feel for them. Now it's relational. It's not transactional anymore.
Mm-hmm.
The logos that a lot of people get online and everything, it's a very transactional thing. But relational to me is like, that's really where the magic happens.
Yeah. Especially when you're starting out. Like entrepreneurship right now is kind of like a hot button. Everyone wants to, start their own business and have an Etsy shop and do all this stuff. When you're first starting, like when we first started in 2020, it was, okay, we need a brand. Like the KHB originally was my last name. So it was Kelly Home and Business. So, and that was all spelt out and it was big and long and bulky. I think I think my sister made my first logo, right? And it wasn't this.
Yeah.
But this is what it turned into eventually, because I was like, well, I don't really want my name in the business, one. Two, it's very long. Even our domain name right now, which we could talk about domains and, the authority of a short domain. But, it came down to KHB and I was like, oh, simple. What else could that stand for? Oh, kitchens, homes, bathrooms. Cool. It kind of fell in our lap at that point, but
it was your destiny. You had the initials.
Right. The stars aligned and KHB was born. Yeah. So with brand, and when you're first starting out to, let's say, 40 years in business, right? If someone says never boring, one, I think it's an awesome name play on David Boring, never boring. It's great. It's creative. And no one would expect it to be your name. Like if you ever exited your business, it wouldn't be like they're buying your name tag that's on the door, which is very smart. How does brand compound? Because one of the big questions I've always had when getting into a market, starting off in business, is KHB means nothing to anyone, right? Then you go through a year of business, you have some reputation, you have some referrals, you have online authority and social proof of your brand. And then year two, that compounds, it gets a little bigger and bigger. So after 40 years, how do you think your brand has transformed from day one doing signs to now you're a community, very involved in the community, very well known in the community, great brand, great company. When did you start seeing the fruits of your brand, I guess is what I'm asking.
There were probably several markers that I could tell you did. One is that I kind of took the tact as a community member that it wasn't in the community because I was trying to get a bunch of work.
Mm-hmm.
It can be an ancillary event, but I mean, or benefit, but it's not the reason. The reason was I realized, sometimes people are complaining, well, they ought to fix this. They ought to fix that. There's just a lot of that. Go on Nextdoor. It's everywhere.
Gosh, yeah.
They ought to fix, half of them don't know where civics, they don't know where the decisions are made. And when you're in a community and you want to make it better, and I was raising our sons in the community, and so it was very important to me to try to play a part in that. And so it became when you set a problem, we had to fix that. So I'd somehow find a way to get involved. This doesn't mean I can't fix everything because I have a business to run. But what I wanted to be is a partner to the community in ways that they could help solve those things. So that became part of our brand. It wasn't that it was so intentional. It felt like I wanted to give back. And I didn't realize that that's a business thing that you take advantage of. But obviously it becomes part of your brand because your brand is who you are. And a lot of people have heard the famous line, your brand isn't what you say it is, it's what they say it is. Mm-hmm. So as our brand grew and started developing, that was a big part of it. Just being involved in, different areas of the city and different areas of the region and different areas of a lot of things. And people knew that if they called me up, I wouldn't blow them off. I cared about what they would want to talk to me about. I'd listen to them. I'd give them some advice if needed. I'd serve on their board if needed. I would do whatever those things were. Then the other thing that built our bandwidth was, I believe that for us, it was important to tell really good stories in the community because Modesto is aptly named modest. Mm-hmm. And we've gotten sort of low self-esteem in the market. And we always felt like there's so much cool stuff going on here. When you see the people that are rolling their sleeves up and creating really cool things, and it's all over the place, you want to focus on that. So we literally created a community magazine to do that, which was Contentment Health. We ran it all the way up till COVID, and all the places that would carry it had to close down. So we're talking about maybe doing a digital version of that. But that was a big help too, because it helped people see, here's the cool stuff in Modesto. Here's the stuff you might not even know about. You may not even understand this is happening over here. But we were telling that story. Plus, we created a really nice magazine. So we felt like we were making the brand of Modesto better. So those things kind of helped. And I think the very last thing is that we practice what we preach. And people go, what's that mean? Well, what it means is if you're a marketing company, shouldn't you be marketing? I mean, if a client walks in and asks, can you help us with something? And we say, yeah, we can. How'd you hear about us? And the answer usually is, I've seen you guys everywhere. Okay. What's that really mean? It means that we want to make sure that they can't miss us. Mm-hmm. No matter where you go, you're going to find
omnipresence.
Omnipresent. There's a lot of targeted in there. There's a lot of just being in the community that helps the branding. But I'm not one of those people that's like a marketing firm that says, we really want to do your marketing, but we don't really do it ourselves. To us, it always felt like we should be the leader of the brand. That's why we use that name. It's not only because we're good at branding, but it's also because we believe that you need to lead with that. That needs to be, you believe in everything you're telling everybody else to do. And if you're doing it yourself, you find out all the things that are good and bad in media too, on your own dime, mm-hmm. not on the client's dime, which is another big thing. Because to me, if I went to an attorney that was supposedly practicing family law, but they didn't know how to do a will and they didn't have a will themselves, they'd be like, I'm not with the right attorney. So we actually practice it. We actually do a lot of marketing ourselves. We do a lot of testing. We do a lot to just make sure we know what really works.
Yeah, you're not learning off the client's back, not off their dime. Yeah.
Every once in a while, there'll be a client that'll come in and they'll ask, have you done this before? And if we haven't, we'll tell them. Mm-hmm. Because I also believe that transparency and authenticity is a huge part of gaining trust with a client.
It is. And it establishes your market position. And that was one of the big things of all the books, I've read, is the one thing you can't determine is what the market thinks of you, the position that you hold in the market. Mm-hmm. But if you're doing the right thing and you're saying the same thing over and over and over and delivering over and over and over, pretty soon your market position is one of transparency, accountability, honesty, and you get that reputation, which you guys have done, which is really cool to see over 40 years because it's hard to have that longevity. I'll tell you what, man, we've been in business our 4th year going into it. It's a grind. I have a lot of respect for entrepreneurs that can stay in one business and build that one business for decades.
What I also find interesting about it, and I've noted this from the clients I work with and we found out ourselves, is that there will be stages of a business, and then you have to go back and start doing some of the same things over that you did the first time. You got to revisit where you're at. What do we stand for? Where are we going? What market? How much market share do we want to get? And all those things come out of stopping and just assessing every so many years, like 7 years, or because there's this, and then sometimes it plateaus, and you don't realize you're doing this because you're not doing the homework and the advanced work here. And I've even done this. I've been at the place where all you do is looking up, man.
Yeah.
We're going fast.
It's wartime.
This is great. We're moving. And then all of a sudden some of the blind spots happen, and you got to go back and reassess and have a look at. I'm a big believer in consultants. Know what you don't know. I've had some good consultants along the way. And so that helps a lot too. Just peer groups.
Yeah.
Consultants that are in your business that'll tell you, David, what are you doing? Well, yeah, you're right. I need to hear somebody that can tell me that.
I love looking through other people's lenses from different industry. It's such a big insight because the game of business is kind of the same, right?
Yeah.
You need to sell, you need to market, you need to produce what you're selling, obviously. And I kind of picture there's the wartime, there's a peacetime. And peacetime, like being in business 40 years, having market dominance in a lot of ways would kind of signify we're in a peacetime situation, right? You can kind of plateau there, hopefully not decline. But then there's the whole thing, if you're not growing, you're dying equation. And so like for us, like we declared wartime last, I think it was October 30th, actually it's on the board, October 31st, 2022, we declared war. And that was, we are not taking our foot off the gas for 10 years. 10 years. We're just going to push. And what we found in that short amount of time, what is that? It's 8 months now of war that we've been at. Sales fixes everything until it exposes it, right? And marketing is great. Marketing brings in leads. We qualify those leads. We convert those leads, get them into production. But it also exposes all the flaws, which I think is a key thing that you brought up. Sometimes you have to go back. You have to reassess. Like an SOP you wrote 2 years ago might not be applicable today. A process that you had in place 2 years ago might need to get revamped and a little bit more efficient. So over the 40 years, you were here before the internet. You were marketing.
That's right. Before Al Gore invented it, we just kept waiting for him to get to it.
Yeah, you were here since the dawn of digital media. How is that transition? And how has your business, do you feel, grown since you can now have an online presence compared to more of a brick and mortar newspaper ad type environment?
It's funny because newspaper ad, I have this great love for newspapers because my dad was in that industry. He retired at the San Francisco Chronicle. But I remember the day that was a big thing. It's like you needed to get a full page newspaper ad, and we've seen all that. But back to the internet. When it first came, you're watching it kind of close. Everything when it first came, we were watching it close. I lived through the invention of the fax machine. Ooh, these fax machines, what are we going to do? And they're kind of expensive. And then, we're just going to where you can send a fax out, and then pretty soon we're adding up what that value is of what we're spending every week and go, okay, let's just buy one, right? The internet was much more interesting because the internet showed the possibilities of beyond anything that we could ever imagine before. Everything else felt like you were really this is just the only place you're at. You put your ad in the yellow pages. If you want to be in another market, you got to put your ad in their yellow pages or run a newspaper ad. So it opened the whole thing up, and it opened a chance to tell your story better. It opened up a chance to be able to really make sure that your brand is your brand across everything. And when we found that the internet started, one of the first things we noticed is that some of the people that were first doing web design weren't paying attention to what the brand was of the company they were doing it. So it was like, I'm an expert at this. I can do the coding. I can do this. I can do that. But I don't know anything about brand. And they'd get a website and you go, oh boy. Because honestly, the good brands, Coca-Cola, Apple, anyone that really has curated a great brand, and there's a whole bunch of them, of course. It's universally everywhere the same. They've done it right everywhere. And it's not so much just, oh, we use the same color and we use the same font. It's the same tonality. It's the same what you say. It's all that stuff. And so the internet was a great thing in the beginning. A little bit, it's a little bit of the Wild West.
Mm-hmm.
We had a gentleman that used to run our web team, and that's what he'd say with clients. He'd go, it feels a little like the Wild West, doesn't it? Maybe sitting across from us. But we'd talk them through, get them to understand this is how you can use it. These are good ways to do it. And what you should say, what you should show. And of course, that's changed how many times over.
No.
What everybody expects. The mobile devices changed the whole thing, right? Yeah. Okay, so now you got an internet this way. Oh, wait, it's got to go on a phone now.
Mm-hmm.
What are we going to do when it's on a phone? So that's another part of it that I really like, is because there's a sense of you have to always know, you have to have your finger on the pulse all the time of what's going on. And I'm a big believer in surrounding myself with people that are really good at that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really strong on brand and campaign. Campaigns are important.
Mm-hmm.
Got Milk didn't just happen.
Yeah.
That was a thing that literally changed the whole foundation of that. I don't know if you know that story, but it's a fun little one if you don't mind.
I've watched the ads, but please tell the story.
Well, what happened was the milk industry was dealing with declining. There's health experts saying things about milk, and we all know some of that stuff changes. Like we say milk's bad now, and 10 years later, oh, we were wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Eggs, you name it.
Yeah.
But if you're a person that lives on selling milk, and basically there's all these people, naysayers out there telling people, no, milk's not that good for you. You got to figure out your workaround, which is really an interesting one. So they tried stuff. Milk is good for everybody. Well, shoot, people complained about that because
Lactose intolerant.
Lactose intolerant, exactly. So milk has something for everybody. I guess that too can make you not feel good too. So it has something for everybody. They were missing it. There's a bullseye target in there and they didn't know how to hit it. So think about the brilliance of this agency. This is Silverstein and Partners out of San Francisco. And again, I used to study all these people, still do. And here's their answer. What is showing the absence of the product mean to you? Guys, first commercial comes out, guys listening to the radio station, you can tell this guy is a trivia guy. His whole place is filled with all sorts of things that show he's a history buff. He's got everything in there. And he's listening to the radio and they're doing a call-in thing because you win a prize if you win. And he calls in right as he's eating a bunch of peanut butter. And he can't get the words out. You got to look it up. He can't get the words out on the phone. And we could hear you, but what are you saying? And it's about the famous duel, and he's saying Raymond Burr. He can't get it out because his whole mouth is, and he's looking for milk, and there's no milk. He's pouring it. It's empty. And he's on the radio. It's hilarious. And that's kind of the way they did it. They didn't position like, you were going to die if you didn't have milk.
Yeah.
They positioned it like, without milk.
Got it.
Oh, it's not good. So got milk. And then they did another genius thing because then everybody wanted to copy it. And the agency and the milk people decided to let them copy it. Everybody's going to come back and think it's us again.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to remind of us because we've put it out there so much. So it doesn't matter if you use got firewood or got hot dogs or got whatever the thing you're selling. So, but I loved what they did. The agency did is they went down a completely different way of branding something than you would normally do it. And those to me are the really good ones. We notice those too.
Yeah.
If we all watch the Super Bowl, which most people do, and we watch the halftime, the ones that stick with you, they're usually kind of brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because there's a lot of thought put into this is how we talk about our brand. This is how we sell it. It's entertaining, it's memorable, and it helps us sell.
Yeah. One of the best ones I've recently seen by Coca-Cola, it's there's 3 different ad sets, and one is just a cup of Coke. It has like the fizzies coming up, and then the small text that makes you really like squint to see it. It says, "Try not to hear this." Right? Like the carbonation fizz. And I thought, what other brand could really do that? Because one, you just think of a Coke, and it's like kind of like the polar bears with Coca-Cola. It elicits an emotion consistently out of you that brand stands for, right? And I've never seen someone really mix a static image with an auditory text that makes you feel a certain way about a product because you've had it so many times. I thought that was a genius combination of mixing visual and auditory without any audio. It was very interesting to see that.
Yeah, sometimes we think we need to do everything. We have to have all these cool optics and lots of motion and lots of everything in an ad.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's that one thing that's so simple, it gets our attention. And we've seen a lot of companies over the years do it. Nike at sometimes has pulled that off. There's other companies that have, but that simple image that is so clear. And you're right. Who else can own that brand? You can't pour a Pepsi and get the same fizz as you get with a Coke.
Nope.
You can't.
Nope. And that's a tribe, man. The Coke people will fight the Pepsi people all day long behind that brand of Coke, which is crazy that they can create that much tribalism in the same cola market. I guess it's the same but different.
It is the same, but
the only difference is the brand's really behind it. I mean, there is some taste variance.
Yeah.
I don't really drink Coke, but I love watching the ad competitions.
Good.
So times change, right? Your brand probably is interpreted a little bit different than it was 40 years ago, right? I think you guys do a great job with that mural on the side of your building. The George Lucas, memoir, having the Darth Vader up there, like that's awesome. What's more important, do you feel? Like a timeless saying one thing over and over and over and having that consistency in your brand, or relevancy? Like let's talk about the Pride, for example. The past 10 years, June is Pride Month, and all these brands revert their logos and they have the flag, and that's more of a relevancy than a timeless piece. Because 50 years ago, if Bud Light put a rainbow flag on their can, they wouldn't be around today, right? What do you feel has more weight? Do you feel like you can give up some brand consistency for relevancy, or?
I think there's actually a good measure for both. I almost look at it like the scale of justice or something. You try to find the balance of both, because the timeless part of it is where somebody's always going to remember who you are, no matter what's relevant today.
Yeah, the Clydesdales of Budweiser,
Clydesdales are never going to go away.
Yeah.
So people know you by that. As soon as they see those horses, there you go. That's Budweiser. Which is fun because it really has nothing to do with drinking.
It doesn't, yeah.
But they figured a way. But the relevancy part, I do think it really matters, especially who your demo is. If you're trying to appeal to certain people, like I imagine in your field, you're trying to find that homeowner that, and maybe more than not, you'd have to tell me this, but maybe more than not, sometimes they're the women that are doing the research and doing the looking. And so you think about what's relevant to them, because what matters to them matters to you. And I don't mean in a fake way. I'm not saying that like all of a sudden you're going to try to be what you're not. But I think you understand, like, to them, this is my nest. This is where I'm raising my, this is where I'm raising my babies. This is where my family comes back. They've grown out, they've moved out, but man, I want them to come back here and have the best experience ever. I want to wake up every morning and walk into this room and I want to feel like,
I just thought of a group of robins with chef's hats on.
Yeah.
And the little baby robins fly away, and then they come home and mom's cooking in the new kitchen. I don't know why, but there's an ad for that.
There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, the thing is that once you understand what's relevant to the people that are there, and I like to come from a place where it comes from the heart. I mean, sometimes
genuine, because you have to deliver on it too.
Yeah, but you can watch progressive ads all day, and you can realize you could sell a whole bunch of stuff without having to really come from the heart.
Yeah.
Seeing Flo turn down John Hamm is kind of fun. Yeah. I actually enjoy that. The whole idea that he's got a crush on her, and there's no reason in the world that he would, and yet she's still just oblivious because all she can think about is insurance. So these are fun things you can do, but the heartfelt stuff that gets into relevant things that are relevant, like you're talking about, pride in your country, or pride in this, or support for this, or support for that. I think those things are always really good to just show that you understand them. And now with so much of the social media, you can do it there. You don't have to,
just change your logo on the.
Yeah, you can do a little something that makes it work that way. I I also think it's good to point out, what other people are doing. To me, I love shining a spotlight on other people. I mean, you're doing it today, which I appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a really good thing as a brand ambassador to say, yeah, there's other things that we look at and there's things that we notice and things that we think are cool. And I think that's also a really good thing for a business to do, is just saying, well, these are things that are relevant to other people,
Mm-hmm.
and they're probably interested in branding. So let's talk branding. So I think there's that kind of relevance is not just, we know how to build this because you're doing it right now.
Mm-hmm.
We know how to build this, but let's talk to somebody that knows how to market this or does this. And I think that is another way of relevancy.
Mm-hmm.
Getting to talk to people that just know something in an area you don't, elevating that.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer in sincere trying to elevate other people. I just really think that if you find good people, then you want to elevate them.
Yeah.
It's our business to try to elevate them anyway.
Yeah.
But personally, professionally, in the community, how do you support these people? How do you help them do better and be better?
Yeah. Especially so one of our missions is in our industry to just make it better. We're actually, I'm writing some copy right now about the headaches between homeowners and contractors, designers and contractors. Why is this even an issue that has been around for decades? And one of my big goals is to actually have local contractors on our podcast and just talk, right? Because there's enough work to go around everywhere. And there's a lot of contractors in our market that do a great job. Like, they're great contractors, and I refer homeowners to them to get their second, third, fourth bid. Go to this guy. He's good. And we recently had a contractor out of Sacramento come on ours, and we're somewhat competition. Like, we have a project in Sacramento that's starting up in June. That's kind of in his territory, but he shares the same thing. Like, no, we need more contractors like us out there. We need to elevate our industry, elevate our contractors, designers to do a better service for our homeowners and just the entrepreneurial communities we're in. And that's what's kind of cool about like this next generation of entrepreneurs coming in, is they call themselves entrepreneurs, which I really enjoy. They're not a plumber, right? They're not just a roofer. They're not just a contractor. They're not just an agency. They're not just what they're identified as in the market. They're thinking outside the box. They're getting a consultant. They're getting a business coach. They're taking a lens from an outside industry on how they can apply, a different tech stack to make their business better that might be meant for a SaaS company, but this has a similar application in a service-based industry. So I think it's really cool where things are heading in that. And I do think it starts by having a conversation, with other people about their business and what we can do.
I like to see businesses that sometimes have their own board, have an advisory board. I think there's some real wisdom in that.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when you hit a fork in the road, or you hit a speed bump, you got a few people that really know a lot. They're entrepreneurs as well.
Yeah.
You usually don't want to get them like, well, let's get a doctor on there. Doesn't really apply. Let's get some entrepreneurs. But I really do believe that. And I second what you're saying, that the class now is saying we're entrepreneurs first and foremost. In your industry, it's really important, I think, too, because, there's always that person that come out and say they'll do the work, but are they going to guarantee it? Are they insured? Are they licensed? Are they bonded? Mm-hmm. All those different things. Those are kind of big things. Like just going out and getting this, I can get the best deal. Well, yeah, but the best deal could cause you a lot of heartache.
There's no customer experience in there.
There's no customer experience. And you did all the hard work of jumping through all those hoops so that you could be a professional that someone could count on.
Yeah.
That's an easier brand to sell.
Yeah.
Than the one-off person that really doesn't even have a license. That's just, I'm really good at this and I can do that and I can do that. And 3 years from now, you can't find them. And there's no guarantee to the work, or there's no you guys are setting where the bar is.
That brings me to Fiverr. That's the first thing I thought of is, you being an agency. Fiverr, I mean, I'm sure you've had people rebuttal on whether that be price or retainer or whatever it may be, where they're like, well, I'll just go to Fiverr and have someone do this.
They always can.
It's the same thing with us. It's like, well, I'll just hire this guy for $10,000 less. It's like, get what you pay for. Have fun. Luck. Yeah, right.
Good luck. I mean, I can tell you many times we've sat with people and said, I'll give you a good example, like a website. Mm-hmm. That seems kind of high. Well, there's a lot to it. You have to code it. We want to make sure SEO is in place. We're gonna populate it with things that are going to be able to move around a lot. You can't have a static site. Mm-hmm. You just can't. So, and we're going to be adding things to it all the time. We're going to make it as simple as we can, as we can for people to navigate. It's really important that people
Upload speed optimization,
absolutely
landing pages, city pages, like
all the things that make a good website. So yeah, and then go out and find somebody that can do it. Unfortunately, a lot of those people aren't here 3 years from now when they want to change their site. I can't tell you many people have called me and go, I don't even know how to get into my site.
We're dealing with that right now with the flooring company that we acquired. The guy that built it held it hostage, won't release the DNS, didn't re-up the domain. So all the emails are now, getting from the mailer demon, saying this domain does not exist. It's a real thing.
Yeah, I like to look people in the eye in our conference room and say, well, we've been here since 1985. Anything happens to your website, you kind of know where to find us.
Mm-hmm.
We're right here. We do it. We'll fix it. We'll help take care of it. We'll update it. We'll do all that. And that cheap person that's out there somewhere that can do it $10,000 less. Good luck. Good luck. If anything goes wrong, anything needs to be updated, anything. Well, what was the wood we used? I don't know. I can't even find the guy that put it in. So when you get to that stage, that's, I think, where the smart clients, the smart customers, you can't win every one of them over.
Well, not everyone's your customer.
Yeah, not everyone's my customer. But I have said one thing a few times, and it's actually been true. You might actually be paying them and then eventually paying me.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we skip the other stop?
Yeah.
Because if you're going and you can't get it done and they're taking forever and you can't even catch them, you can't find them. I mean, basically almost every client is in my phone.
Mm-hmm.
They need something, they got me.
Yep.
And I wouldn't want it any other way because I don't have a living if I don't have those clients. So I treat it like, yeah, you can access me. I mean, they don't call me in the middle of the night. They don't do anything off like that. These are serious business people. But the point of it is, I'm here. I'm going to stay here, and I'm going to be here. And if you have a problem, I'm there. And a lot of times people will go get that logo, go get that website, go get that thing. And yeah, they got it cheaper. And they can do it on Fiverr, and they can do it. But they'll end up back with us because they realize it wasn't as good as it needed to be. And then some of them, there's businesses that can succeed with good brands, and there's business that can succeed with bad brands. It's not, I wouldn't say it's universal because if you do a really good job, you do really good service, you do really good everything, maybe your brand isn't going to be as important.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's the experience and it's the quality and
we see that in contracting all the time. You go drive through Del Rio, there's a bunch of contractors out there, no logo on the truck, no phone number on the side, no branding. But they've been there. They've been doing good work for 10, 20, 30 plus years, and they get the call.
Yeah. Because you built it up the other way. You built your reputation up the other way. But if you do both, how much more is possible?
Deadly. Yeah.
It's deadly combination. It's October 31st, 2022.
Yes.
It's war.
We're in a situation with a homeowner. When we first started in 2020, you're taking what you can get, right? We did some fences, we did some bathrooms, we did some kitchens. We're just trying to get revenue in the door and start building this thing. We took a project and the homeowner was acting as the general contractor on this, subcontracted out the demolition, frame, plumbing, electrical with us, subbed out the tile to another person, solid surface to another person, glass to another, like really just hodgepodge this thing together. It's now 3 years later. There's a leak in her shower pan. Calls the tile guy, no answer. Texts the tile guy, no answer. Emails the tile guy, no answer. Cannot get a response. So they call us, right? We go there and we offered them a price to be the general contractor on the project. It was obviously more expensive than just doing some sub trades and walking away. They didn't want our price at that time, but that price came with a warranty that we would have stood behind that waterproofing for up to 10 years. I went out there, we tested our rough plumbing, looked at our valves, no leaks, no nothing. The guy didn't plumb the drain correctly, didn't waterproof the PVC liner in the shower pan. It's leaking right under there, ruining their doors, their casing, their floor. And it's like, I feel bad, but I'm like, the price to do it right once, you had that opportunity 3 years ago, and here we are.
And it's so hard to tell somebody the downside of going the cheap route. It's so hard to
leave you yet.
Yeah, because the pain hasn't started.
Yeah. And our best clients are the ones that got burned before us.
Yeah.
They're our best clients.
Yeah. That's some of our best clients too. It's just the sense of like, we tried to do this branding stuff ourselves. We tried to do, well, yeah. And there's actually, this is all we think about all day long. This is all we do all day long. And not only that, but I really get good people that are at it. I mean, we've always had really strong team of people that work in our place. And they're always challenging the convention anyway. It's like, this isn't as good as it gets. We can make it better. We can do it better. And whether that's a web designer, whether that's a film specialist, whether it's a marketing person, whether it's a brand specialist, logo, corporate ID. But it's always, how do we make it better? How do we make it better? How do we make it better? So we're not even just resting on what we know. We're always trying to go, what can we do to make it better? Like compare that to somebody that's in a Fiverr situation and you're like, you have no idea what you're going to get. Yeah, you're going to get some choices. But again, I like to just look people in the eye and go, they've never walked into your business. They've never seen you work. They don't know you personally.
They're on a different continent.
Yeah. They don't know you personally. Yeah. And yeah, they can do a nice look for you and it could work out. It could be fine. But I guarantee you when we get involved in it, we're going to give you something that will feel like it's you. And it's not, again, as I mentioned earlier, it's not just the external audience, the internal audience. Because once you have a bigger and bigger company, they all need to understand what your brand is. There needs to be an elevator pitch that they all understand. There needs to be, here's our brand story. Here's what we stand for. Here's the logo we're all proud of because a lot of us had some input on it. That's a different thing too. That's ownership.
Yeah. And enterprise level branding is it's a different beast. Because what we're doing right now, like we just acquired another location. We acquired a flooring company. We try to have brand consistency across those different markets, but also speak to that market the way they need to be spoken to, right? Because Dublin is different than Turlock. Stockton is different than Turlock. But having something like internally, we build our process to the TVR model, teachable, valuable, repeatable. And same thing with your brand. It needs to be valuable. It needs to have an instant value proposition, whether that be your landing page on your website. Here it is. Here's the value. Here's how we can solve your problem, right? Essentially. And it needs to be repeatable. It needs to be consistent. And that's something that it's very hard to do. It's very tough to do. You look like Apple or Nike or Ford. I think Ford does a great job.
Or does.
Used to. They do okay now, I feel like. But they had some great innovative brands back in the day that I've looked at. You look at those people that have kept it relevant, timeless, almost in the same, and then consistent through every market they're in, for every vehicle they're marketing, everything that they do. It's a testament to how important it is in longevity of your business. Because if you don't have marketing, I don't think you're going to grow that much. If you're not growing, you're dying. So marketing is kind of a cornerstone in any business, I feel like.
Yeah, and we always advise people don't start thinking of marketing when things are going south. You want to always do it when they're north, because you have a budget for it. You know you should, and you're investing in your future success. When you wait until things are bad, and I've had people come into our business the same way, and they go, well, things are really bad. I've only got this much to spend. And I'm empathetic with them, trust me, because I get it. I get it. The business didn't work out quite right. You're going through a low period, but you always start marketing when you're riding the crest. You market. You should start from day one, but not everybody puts a marketing budget in.
Yeah.
But market from day one and then keep doing it. And then don't stop when you're there. The pedal stays on the gas the whole time, because all you're trying to do is build a bigger and bigger gap between you and your competitors.
Yep. That's
the point, is that they might just be like, oh, we're fine now. No, you're not. You actually want to grow that, and I use team sports a lot, but any good team that wants to be a dynasty, they're working on it every year. They're not just doing it because, oh, we're good this year. Let's just sit on that.
Yeah.
No. As we've seen in the NBA, 3 of the 4 of last, NBA championship coaches are fired. There's this mindset, like, if you didn't win it this year, you didn't. And it's not necessarily the same as how business works. They're not necessarily firing the people at the top. But the mindset is, we want to win every year. We expect to win every year. We're paying this much money for it. And I think people need to work on their companies that way, and internally, and then how they market them.
Yeah.
They're constantly looking, like you said, SOPs. Our SOP is outdated. Are they not what they should be? What could we be doing differently? What haven't we tried? What's more effective? What's better for this market? This part of what we do than this part of what we do. But all of that, I think, plays into the idea of longevity, is that you want to stay relevant all the time. So you're going to market all the time. Sometimes we'll ask people, do you have a budget? No. You don't have a budget? You have a budget for everything else.
This isn't a part of your overhead?
Yeah.
It should be.
It should be.
Yeah.
So that's always interesting too. And then the first time when the recession hits, sometimes first thing that goes is marketing.
Which should be the last.
It's like, I get it. You got to keep the lights on.
Yeah.
You want to keep that receptionist. I get all that. But all that might not matter if you don't have marketing. Mm-hmm. So for us, and I try not to use scare tactics because I don't believe it's the way to go. I always believe that, let's see if we can build something. Mm-hmm. I'm not worried about, I don't want them to be in the emergency room situation. I want them to be in a situation where we're helping them with their core strengths. The other side of it, how do you build them up?
Well, and you got to let them know, I think the root of all success and all the entrepreneurs I've studied is delaying gratification in one way or another. And with marketing, there is no instant gratification. You can't just start an SEO campaign and then be ranking number 1 in a week. It might take 6 months. It might take 12. You need to build out that authority. It takes time. And even with ads, I remember when we first started doing Google ads, I was like, what's this learning period? Like, what the heck I gave you $5,000, bring money back in. I treat it like a slot machine. It doesn't work like that.
No.
And the presence of it, like the brand awareness, the omnipresence of marketing and all the touches, all the different campaigns, it's smoke and mirrors, and it's a time game, because you might have a Google ad here and someone saw you on Google, then they saw your banner and display ad, and then you retargeted them correctly or did behavioral targeting, and they found you on Facebook. And then after that, they see a truck. And the truck is what makes them convert, right? You're in their neighborhood, or they saw you on the highway. And it's like, well, sure, they might have called the tracking number on the truck or scanned the QR code. It really came from Google. And then they really got a touch on Facebook. And then we followed them on TikTok. And it has to be an omnipresence, long-term type investment.
Be in front of them all the time.
Yeah. I probably wasted a year of our company's time being impatient. I'm finicky, man. I'm all over the place. I'm turning this ad off. I'm turning this campaign on, turning this off, turning this on, boosting this post because I want instant gratification. And, it turns out I'm just lighting money on fire. You just gotta, you gotta A/B test it. You gotta let it do its thing. I wasted thousands of dollars just being impatient.
That's funny. That's one of the analogies I use a lot too. We don't want to be burning money in the parking lot. Let's not.
Literally, yeah. You're just lighting money on fire.
Yeah.
If you're turning.
But, it's funny because sometimes I'll ask, how do you know the last time you saw a Toyota ad? Or how do you know the last time you saw Coke? Well, the last time you saw Coke. That's what's fun about this conversation. But most of the time people can't say. Mm-hmm. They just know it's omnipresent.
Yep.
Like you said. They know exactly how they want to respond when they see it, whether it's a truck, a delivery truck, or whatever, like you said. But the point of it is, if you're staying in front of them all the time, your brand is always going to be top of mind. Mm-hmm. And people go, well, top of mind's an old term. No, it's not. It is an old term, but it doesn't mean it still doesn't matter now. Like, you don't want someone to think about anybody else but you when it comes to those.
Yeah, the core principles aren't.
No, top of mind means that's it. Yep. You are the first one they think of. Yep. And if you can do that, and of course we have lots of new tools that we didn't have, and there'll be more. Mm-hmm. But the point of it is that top of mind to us has always felt like it's really critical.
Yeah.
And it comes from everything from, what your brand looks like, what your messaging is, how you're implementing it, all the different platforms you use. The other thing that's interesting, and I'm sure you get this, you should never be able to be hesitant to ask the client, how are we doing? Mm-hmm. If you don't want to know that, then you already know you got a problem.
Yep.
You always want to ask them how are we doing?
Especially the ones that don't move forward with you.
Yeah.
That's the best conversation I have is when they go with another contractor, I've licked my wounds, it is what it is. And I call them and I say, hey, what was the deciding factor in you moving forward with that other contractor? Because that's gold.
Yeah.
When you get that feedback, gold.
Yeah. And you shouldn't be afraid to ask it. Mm-hmm. I mean, to me, the honest thing is that a lot of time, anything with a client is like a courtship. It's just that way. Mm-hmm. You start with whatever it would be, the meet and greet, first date, speed dating, whatever. You meet them. You don't know if they're going to be somebody that you're going to know forever, and you just don't know if they're going to be your client forever. But there does become that kind of moment where you go, now it's a courting process and sincere. We want your business. We'd like to work with you. We care about what you care about. The things that you're worrying you, we want to worry about them.
Mm-hmm.
I had one amazingly great client. They walked in one morning and said, you should be worried about what I'm worried about at 3 a.m. I'm like, they're right. They're right.
No, well,
Learned a lot from clients, by the way, too.
only thing I've ran into with homeowners, clients, is when I go back, right? And let's say they haven't made the decision yet. They often ask me in one way or another to compromise either at our principle or our ethics or character to mold ourselves and our process to fit their needs, right? Like if the common example is price,
Right.
right? Well, you guys were $5,000 higher than the next contractor. Drop your price $5,000. We'll move forward with you. Then my next question is, so where in our process did we not show you that we're worth $5,000 more? You know, like where did that disconnect happen? Because I'm not going to drop my price because I know what we're worth. I know I know to the cent how much we need to bring in on this project. So where along our process did we not build the trust to make it worth the $5,000 more? And oftentimes they're, dumbfounded. They don't, they got to go, they can't talk, but you get a few good insights to where, well, I didn't really hear back from you in 2 days. It's okay. Well, maybe we need to have a day-by-day follow-up system put in place, A/B test that. Or, the email was a little off-putting and it sounded like you guys were frustrated that I wanted to change my finishes or I wanted to change this option in my bathroom. It's like, okay, well, maybe we change those email communications to in-person or phone call, right? To give more context, some more voice, some familiarity. So little things like that to where it's invaluable. It's great information, but a lot of people don't do that. They lose the project, they lose the client, and they're like, oh, no, next. It's like, you guys are not going to get any better by staying stagnant in that manner. Like, you need to adjust, you need to grow or die, right?
Well, the reason I use the courtship model is you don't get to keep the person you're courting if you're not constantly aware of them, communicating with them, trying to be fair to them, trying to show that you care about what happens to them, and then being appreciative of them too. We have to be appreciative of our clients. It's good that they feel that from us.
Yeah.
And it has to be, again, authentic. Somebody just gets, oh, it's great working with you, and walks off, and that's the last to hear of them. I have people that are still clients for all these years. I have people that were former clients, but the one thing that's never changed in almost every single instance is the goodwill. And the goodwill came because I treated it like I want a really great relationship with you. At the end, you may not choose us. Later on, you may come back. That happens. But what we hope to do is create that authenticity that we really care about what happens here. And you're right. If the methodology is not working, change it.
Yeah.
If you're sitting there working over an email too long, then I'm always like, pick up the phone.
Yep.
Why are you laboring over an email? If it's this tricky to write.
Yeah. If you have to think about these words this carefully.
If it's that tricky, call them, because then you know exactly what they're going to feel when they hear it.
Yeah.
You're going to be able to address their issues if they have an issue with it.
And tone is so important.
Right. But again, one of my biggest things is, are we trying to be transactional or are we trying to be relational? Never boring for us. It's being relational.
I love it.
I don't want to be transactional. Like that, somebody else is for that. We're relational.
And that's why you're here 40 years later.
Yeah. With all this white hair.
Well, man, I appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate you having me, Ryan.
Wealth of knowledge. I'll put all the social for Never Boring in the comments. If you need a website, if you need design, if you need SEO, whatever you need marketing related, call Never Boring. They can help you out.
Appreciate it so much.
Cool.
Thank you.